to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into Pater for a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. Got my friend Destin Adams on. We are continuing in our look at the impending Colts 2021 free agents. Free agency is coming here a little over a week, and we just dropped the Xavier Rhodes videos, so we are talking about now another corner. TJ Carrie was also brought over this last offseason on a one-year deal, and like Xavier Rhodes, exceeded expectations, I think, from what we had on him in a lot of ways. Dustin, man, TJ Carrie is just a name, I think, that he was one of the more underrated signings by Chris Ballard last offseason. Like, he's the guy that, like, nobody really talked about, but when you go back and kind of look at his 2020 season, I don't know about you, but I was pleasantly surprised with what I saw from him.
Yeah, I think the thing about Carrie is I feel like a lot of people don't understand how much he exceeded expectations because of how great Xavier Rhodes played, far past his expectations, really. But, I mean, signing TJ Carrie last season, it was a very under the radar kind of signing. A lot of people, especially Colts fans, didn't really know much about him. He's just been really a depth journey guy these last few years, playing with the Raiders, playing with the Browns. But man, coming in, he just had a much bigger role than I had expected, and I'm sure most of Colts Nation expected for him to come in and do the things he was able to do.
Yeah, I mean, he played in 15 games. He started 2 of those. He recorded 2 interceptions. He was a key player on special teams. So, overall, I thought, for what you basically paid him, which was virtually nothing, you got a good return on that investment there. So let's start with the positives, as we always do. Let's start with the pros on why we would potentially bring back TJ Carrie in the 2021 offseason. I'll start with the first one here, Destin. I think it's just simply your cornerback group right now. There's a lot of question marks. Rocky Ascend has had an up and down season in his second year there. Marvell Tell obviously opting out. That didn't help the cornerback depth at all. And then, just looking at TJ Carrie here from the type of corner that he is, he's a very versatile guy, right? I mentioned, he played some special teams for you. He played some inside corner, some outside corner fairly well. I think for all those reasons, that is a pro for why I'd bring back TJ Carrie based off of his 2020 season.
I mean, yeah, for sure. That the versatility he added was just crazy, especially just being an inside guy primarily his entire career. Being able to see him go out to the outside was a really cool thing to see for sure, especially in a year where we thought the outside depth was going to be pretty poor after Marvell Tell opting out.
Right.
So that was a pleasant surprise for sure. A big reason why I think Carrie has earned himself another stay here. Another pro to bringing him back is TJ Carrie has just been a guy that bought into the locker room. He's bought into the culture here. And being a smaller market, being just in the Indianapolis area, we're not Los Angeles, we're not Miami, we're not these big-time cities. Like, buying into the locker room and what we're doing here and the mission that this team has is huge. It's maybe the second biggest thing to making sure the money is right for a guy. If he's a fit in this locker room that I think is really close. They're really close-knit at this point. And I think TJ Carrie just really bought in. He tweeted back and forth with fans. That was a really cool thing to see this past year. I just think he's a guy that likes the Indy area and likes the Colts locker room.
Yeah, he always struck me as just like a really good dude, like just a really solid guy that you love to have in your locker room. He's maybe not the most vocal guy in the world, but like that's okay. Like, he's just a guy that, like you said, he's bought into this team. He came in after, being on different teams, and he just fit in so well with what the Colts were doing on defense. So I definitely agree with you there. I think he was a great fit from a culture standpoint. And then my third point here, I'll kind of clump these together here. First off, you got him cheap last offseason. I think you can do that again, maybe a little bit more, because, he shows you a little bit more than, you saw maybe last year at this time when you signed him. So he's going to be cheap, and he's also going to just be another veteran presence there in that corner room, right? I mean, we all know how much Chris Ballard loves to sign those veteran guys to help in his locker room. He even felt, Destin, after that 2019 backslide of the second half of the season, he just attributed that to obviously a lack of execution, but also a lack of accountability amongst his players. TJ Carrie is a guy, like you mentioned, he spent time in Oakland, spent time in Cleveland, so he has some experience around the league. He's just another guy, man, that you can bring in there that can provide more veteran leadership for this kind of unknown corner group. Some young guys in there as well. So I think for that reason, it's a pretty good reason to bring him back. You're not going to be dropping a bunch of money on a guy that offered you some good minutes there in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, Ballard is a guy who's always going to make money work. It's just who he is. People can call him cheap. People can call him stubborn, but he has a price tag on every single player, and he will not go past that. So TJ Carrie most likely not being a guy that will bring up a big dollar amount, even if he does hit the open market. I'm sure is a very alluring aspect to Chris Ballard. And I mean, using the other two things we said as well, and then on top of that, him being a pretty cheap type of player to bring back, I just think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it does too. But like we always say in these videos, there's all these pros, but they also lead to some cons. There's always some cons with all these guys. Hey, what's up, guys? I want to take a pause from the video to talk about our sponsor for this video, Manscaped. Now, Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million worldwide. And we have an exclusive offer for you, our listeners. 20% off plus free shipping with the code BTJ at manscaped.com. I'll say it again with code BTJ at manscaped.com. And Derek, Manscaped hooked both you and I up with some pretty cool tools, right? I know you have one there. I have a couple here to keep it fresh down there. But Derek, I can't tell you, man, how many times, you've been down there, you've been shaving, you're trying to figure that stuff out, and
the worst.
It's the worst, man. It is. And Manscaped definitely is a great resource there to help you have confidence moving forward, man, and doing that. I know it's never fun, but Manscaped makes it a little bit more bearable.
Well, thankfully, Cody, I've not had any issues when it comes to that yet, thanks to Manscaped. And the best thing that I've had with that was the Lawnmower 3.0. It's the new device that helps you. It's the 3rd generation trimmer featuring a cutting ceramic blade that helps to keep you from having accidents down there. The best thing for your grooming experience. It also comes with an LED light, helps you to make sure you see where you're going. Obviously, you need that. And it's also waterproof. I don't have any water on me right now, but I would definitely show you. Helps with your shower and grooming experience. Makes it so much easier. Obviously, don't use it on your face. That's just nasty. I'm just letting y'all know that now.
Don't do that. Don't
do that. Also, guys, with your package that you would also get comes with a lot of other things that you would need to help with your grooming experience. You have Preserver and Reviver to help with the family jewels to make sure everything is fresh. And also Manscaped throws in a bunch of other things, including boxer briefs and a travel to go bag to be able to bring your stuff on the road with you. Believe me, your balls will thank you. Cody, tell them how they can get started with their Manscaped experience.
Absolutely. So 20% off and free shipping using the code BTJ, stands for Bring the Juice, BTJ at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code BTJ. Unlock your confidence and always have the right tools with Manscaped.
Thank you to all of you, including Manscaped, for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check them out, guys, and enjoy the video.
Destin, why don't you let us know your first con here for why you would not bring back TJ Carrie in 2021?
Yeah, the first one for me would just be pending the signing of a guy like Xavier Rhodes. If you bring back Rhodes and Carrie, for instance, it would just really feel like you're running it back at a position where it probably wasn't the best area on the defense this last year. And that can be worrisome to fans. That can be worrisome to an organization if you aren't really improving in that area. So, I mean, that's definitely a thing that could really stick out. Now, you could also make the counter argument that a guy like Marvell Tell is going to be coming back who opted out last year. But, I mean, there's still a lot of uncertainty there with the COVID players. I mean, COVID-19 is not gone. I mean, some people think it's a little bit lower, obviously, than this time last year. But, I mean, COVID-19 is still an issue, and I'm sure there's still going to be players that are nervous to go out there and compete with the pandemic still going on at any rate.
Sure. No, that makes total sense. He's not a slam. Like you said, he's not a slam dunk to come back. Like everybody's like, he's going to come back. I'm like, well, we think he's going to come back, but we have no clue. We have no idea if he's going to come back. So I definitely agree with you there. It's like, okay, you got some options in the draft. You got some potential options, not a ton in free agency. Would it make more sense to go get a guy who's a little bit more, I would say, like maybe comparing it to like Pierre, well, the reason why they cut Pierre Desir last year and they opted to sign Xavier Rhodes, they felt like they like compared to these two guys, even though probably Pierre Desir had the last couple of years were probably a little bit better for him, they felt like Xavier Rhodes had more of an upside. And maybe that's where the Colts need to think here. Okay, we like what TJ Carrie gave us, but if we can get another guy in the draft or free agency that we feel like gives us a little bit more upside, that could be why they could opt to choose and not bring back him in the 2021 season. Okay, my number two, kind of leading into my number 2 point here for the cons of not to bring back TJ Carrie. Do you want to go younger at corner? Do you want to go younger? We just mentioned the draft. I know Derek's in love with a guy, Paulson Adebo. Derek literally mocks him in every single draft. And I'm like, Derek, you got to choose other players. There's other corners in this draft too. But, just saying that, there's a lot of good options at corner there, maybe in that second and third round, maybe in the first round if one of those guys falls, that I feel like potentially you could address the corner position and not bring back TJ Carrie, and then you feel a little bit better about not running it back at corner, like you said, because now you have a guy with a little bit more upside there and is younger and has a lot more potential to turn into something more than TJ Carrie at this point in his career. So, that's my second point. Now going to the third point, Destin, the final point here for why we wouldn't bring back TJ Carrie. What you got?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit about adding in the draft or adding another guy in this free agency class. That's a pretty solid corner free agency class. It just feels like Carrie could be the guy that's the odd man out next year. Because if they do decide to add a corner or two via free agency or the draft, then it'll come down to the point that we're not 100% sure if Carrie will get many minutes next year. I mean, Isaiah Rodgers started to get a little bit more coverage snaps to end the year a little bit. We saw probably his highest usage of the year in the playoff game against the Bills. And when he was in, it just felt like he had the capability of making big plays. Is Frank Reich and Ballard and Eberflus and co. going to want to push a guy like him into the lineup a little bit more? Because him and Carrie, I mean, they're probably a very similar role, primarily inside guys, but either of them can bounce out to the outside if needed. So it just really depends on how the free agency period goes. I won't be shocked if TJ Carrie is a guy that we don't see signed on day one by the Colts, but maybe they go out and try to make some swings. And if they miss, because a lot of people don't understand this, but I mean, football is a sport just like every other that there is a lot of things that happen behind closed doors. Most of your pushes are going to be misses. Most of your swings are going to be misses. You're not going to hit on all your free agency targets. You're not going to hit on all your trade targets. So maybe they go out and take some bigger swings and then come back to a guy like Carrie, knowing he's a stable part that you can bring back.
That just brought to mind a player that, if you mentioned that, a player that the Colts kind of did that with at wide receiver, Dontrell Inman. I mean, they opted to not bring him back after that one season. What happened? They had some injuries. Things didn't pan out at wide receiver at certain points that season. You saw them bring him back at the end of that season. I believe it was 2019 season, if I'm not mistaken, where they brought him back for a few games there. So I could definitely see them maybe doing something similar to Carrie, where he's not a guy that's going to get immediately signed by any team. Maybe he is, and maybe the Colts miss out on that. But I could see that being a potential thing that happens if corner, you get hit with the injury bug at corner, or one of these guys that pan out. If you go swing for the fences and you land a guy, I could see that happening too. But All right, that'll do it for our look at TJ Carrie. If we feel like the Colts should bring him back, I think we're kind of both in a similar mindset here of like, we wouldn't be opposed to bringing him back, but the Colts could also opt to go another direction. It really depends where Ballard's and company's mind is in terms of what they feel like the future is at corner. Like, do we feel like we can run it back for another season and address other positions? And we feel like solid about that, or should we go and try to make a bigger improvement at corner as opposed to last season? What do you guys think? Do you think the Colts should bring back TJ Carrie? If so, what kind of contract would you be looking for? Let us know in the comments below. But for Destin and myself, thanks guys so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.